You face battles most never fought, pain, struggle, adversity. But here, we use that as fuel. This is the Battle Harder podcast, where we motivate, educate, and inspire warriors of life, veterans, survivors, leaders. We share stories and strategies to turn pain into progress. Here's your host, Coach Rob. Let's lock in and battle harder.
What's up, guys? This is Coach Rob, your host here on the Battle Harder podcast, where I hope to motivate, educate, and inspire you to become the best version of yourself. Today's episode should be very fun and informative. The person that I'm about to have on, she has gone through an unbelievable amount of trauma and turmoil and setbacks in her life. And I can't wait to have a conversation with this guest, as her energy is just amazing, especially for someone that has dealt with everything life has handed to her. So I look forward to bringing on the Battle Harder podcast, Melodie. Melodie, if you could come on camera, please.
Hi, so great to be here. I could hardly sleep last night. I was just so psyched about this conversation and discussion with you. It's a pleasure to be here, especially after I saw your work during your seminar that you were doing for the South Florida Behavioral Health Conference. And I walked in a little late, and the information just resonated with me so much. And I said, I got to talk to him. We got to discuss maybe being on a podcast. And you just happen to have a podcast. So, here we are. It's kismet, right?
Definitely, and I'm glad you're joining me today. And like you said, so for my community that you may not know, I gave my first ever, this was literally, one of my goals is to be a keynote speaker and tell my story and help people heal with the power of personal development. And when I applied to be at the Behavioral Health Conference in Broward County, I remember it saying on the form to submit that if you're not a mental health professional, psychologist, doctor, neuroscientist, that you probably are not going to get picked. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to apply anyway. I'm going to go for it. And sure enough, whatever I wrote at the time resonated with them. And interesting enough, I was so nervous, giving my first talk. And I had notes, and I was reading my notes, and I was preparing my notes. And when the talk started, I didn't even use my notes. I just kind of went from my heart and soul.
Yeah.
And the overwhelming response from the crowd, I think, was pretty good and kind of solidified that I'm in the right space, in the right area. And we had an amazing talk when you came up to me to talk about everything you're doing in the mental health arena. So why don't you just give us a little background of who you are and what you do?
So who I am. So when I was 4 years old, we'll go back there. I wanted to be an actress, an archaeologist, or an astronaut, or an astronomer. So as above, so below. I still want to be an archaeologist. And I think I wanted to be an actress because not per se to be an actress, but to get my voice out. And from a young age, I just had this ability to make friends easily. I had a lot of, ADD. I would get up out of my chair constantly, but I would always be chatting with somebody, checking on somebody. And I couldn't stand it when other kids were bullied or ostracized. And because I would speak up and use my voice, and stand in between and try to help that person, protect themselves, I would do anything for anybody else because I couldn't understand how people could be so unkind in this world. And then I had to be an adult, and then seeing how people really behave and how they have been traumatized themselves, and then they act out in ways as adults. And one thing that I always wanted in my whole life was to be a mother. And I got the chance to be not only a mother to two beautiful boys who are now adults, but also I helped raise my nephews. They were all close in age. It was just me and my sister and my parents raising those four boys together. Two of them were neurodivergent. They were on the spectrum. But back then, Rob, they did not have services. And I became a researcher of neuroscience and neurodivergency. And still to this day, it's just, you see my LinkedIn profile, that's what it says. I'm really into learning about the new techniques, whatever they're coming out with, to help people understand this, because so many people are being diagnosed now with it. It's even as adults being diagnosed with ASD, autism spectrum disorder. So I kind of fell into the mental health care space. My background is human resource management. I've done that. I was vice president of my family's art business. It was exciting. It was a lot of fun. And we did well. It was a good run until the recession in 2007. You know, art's not a luxury. I'm not a necessity. It's a luxury. So that field, I fell into mental health care. They kept moving me into marketing, business development, and I was scaling mental health companies. And then people just hear about my work, and I would help us get accredited with like the CARF accreditation, which is the Golden International Seal of Health and Human Services. I went through that process. Things that are really hard. You know these things, Rob. Everything in life is hard. Choose your hard. Working out is hard. Not working out is really hard. Marriage is hard. Divorce is hard. You know, pick your heart in life and make it so it's a positive one. So I just kept trying different careers, and I'm not stopping now. So where I'm going with my whole thing is, I'm currently working for Florida Healthcare System. They're an outpatient mental health facility, psychiatric services. I've worked for many before, but nobody does what we do like we do. And we accept Medicaid. We accept all insurances. There's no wait times. I could just tell you so many great people that I work with, my colleagues, the patients that they serve. We get great reviews, and I feel so proud of the company I work for. But there's the other side to me that has always wanted to go out on my own in the aspect of my passion projects, which is talking to people like you about the mind. I think mental health is kind of a turn off to some people, but everything manifests in the mind.
Definitely.
Your health, everything, right? So we can talk about mindset all day long, and it doesn't bother you. But when you start talking about mental health, people get really defensive. So I want to change that whole thing, because it is about your mind. Everything is about your mindset. Pick how your day is going to go. How you're going to react to the car cutting you off. You're going to let that control you and make your day bad? No.
The common thing I guess, with every guest, whether they're a mental health professional or someone that overcame trauma, is exactly what you said. And what I preach and practice and try to teach people is, your energy is limited. We have limited energy every day that we can put into things. And are you going to be putting that into people cutting you off, or someone getting your order wrong, or leaving your wallet in a store, or getting in a fight that's not necessary with a loved one? Or are you going to put that energy into doing good, helping people, your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health? And it's funny that you said you wanted to be an actress, because one thing you didn't know about me is I actually am an actor. I just did a PSA for it's going to be a mental health PSA, but my part of the acting on the PSA was for veteran suicide and veteran mental health.
I can't wait to see it.
And then in the realm of like regular TV, I actually just booked a role on an upcoming show on Peacock. So acting's been a passion of mine. I love.
Congratulations!
Thank you. I love being on camera and just being able to play these different personas or people, from cops to thugs to whatever.
That's so cool.
But for the community that doesn't know, and even my knowledge, what is neurodivergence? Can you explain that to us a little bit, please?
So it's just, they still don't really know, Rob. I mean, it's still one of those things, and even what causes it. And so I can come up with my theories. I'm not a clinical person. I am just a mom and advocate to finding out not just the root cause, but how we can treat this, because it's called spectrum for a reason, autism spectrum disorder for a reason. So you can have kids that are nonverbal, and then just severely behind, delayed, right? Or you can have kids that don't possess the regular, the social, emotional, that you would see, like smile, they'd smile back, but they'd have to learn how to do these things. And then they take things very literally sometimes, very literally. So it's hard to joke with them. They don't really get it. Right. And then the sensory, like things touching them, things being too loud. And imagine being a baby and not being able to tell anybody, like, turn down the volume. Ow, that blanket is itchy. My son just was, I really got him diagnosed very early, and I just really made sure that I was there with him every step of the way, because the symptoms that go along with autism spectrum disorder range from ADHD, which I kept trying to treat him for, which it's not going to work, to depression, to psychotic episodes. It's everything. It's all over the gamut, and not enough people know about this. So they're not fond of me talking about it, but listen, my son is now getting his PhD in optical engineering at the University of North Carolina, and they're paying him a salary to get his PhD. He is like above genius level, and it's very rare to meet really intelligent genius level people. I mean, I'm biased, I'm his mother, but to the level of caliber of his genius mind, it just was so amazing to raise him. I had to keep up, though. I had to really study hard.
And I think
quantum physics.
I think that's a testament to your parenting, wanting to understand what was going on instead of probably getting frustrated. And I'm sure you had some frustrating moments. Have you ever seen the show Love on the Spectrum?
I loved it.
Me too. It's a great show. And
I'm surprised you saw it. I don't know anybody else who's seen it. You're the only one.
I love that show. And so my community, if you have Netflix, check it out. It gives you an inside look of people that have, these kind of, I don't want to say issues, but the things that they deal with and how it's hard for them to adapt as a normal person. And everybody wants to be loved and find love. So it's a very powerful, emotional thing give you some sort of understanding of what someone may, that has autism or ADHD or severe mental health issues, what they go through. As far as how they have to relate to people, things that bother them, annoy them. So you've lived that firsthand. And what I guess I want to know is, just from meeting you and the short time we've been talking and networking and building a relationship, you have a very bubbly, energetic personality. You're very outgoing. You speak your truth. And so life for you was hard, and we can talk about whatever you want to as we spoke about your story at my conference. How does someone like you that went through hell and back have this personality, this energy, this newfound perspective on life?
I went through my own existential crisis, and I've had two of them. One was 2007. That was really cathartic. But 2020 was different, Rob. That was dark. I just did not want to be on this world anymore. And I lost what I consider my whole entire heart and home all in 12 months. So you and I spoke about this, but in a nutshell, within 12 months time, my husband, former veteran, overseeing major security for airports, the height of COVID, and there was not many passengers. I thought he was like going to deal well with no stress because there was nothing to do. And instead it went the other way. And I watched him disintegrate before my eyes. And I had to divorce him, my best friend. And then my sons were leaving for college. I was grieving their loss before they even left for college. And then they had to go off during the height of COVID, the beginning of COVID. And then I had to sell my house. I had to give away everything to anybody. And I sold the rest of my jewelry, my fine art that I collected over the years. We had renovated that home together, and I had to just basically just walk away from it. And then it was just real difficult to process, but I had to also leave a toxic best friend of 40 years who was considered a daughter to my parents. And she was doing some really horrific things. I had to get rid of her as well. I went monk mode so bad, Rob. It wasn't the cool monk mode that they talk about on the internet. I changed my name, not my name. I changed my email. I changed my cell. I got off all social media. Only my immediate family had my phone number. I lost my job because of COVID. I was a mental health care startup, executive, and it just shut everything down. COVID just killed it. So the World Health Organization declared the pandemic on 3/11. That is my birthday.
Oh, wow.
And on my birthday, everything changed in 12 months' time. And it was too much. I had nobody to pour my love and energy into anymore. I had my parents, I had my family, but it's not the same, Rob. It's not. You know that feeling when you're in a room full of people, but you couldn't feel any more alone. And that's the way I felt. But I didn't want to be found either. So somebody got my phone number through a family friend and called me up, and she said, Mel, hey, listen, I'm not doing so well. I'm really in a dark space, and my husband told me to find you, call you, and get your Melodie fix. And when she said that, it kind of like washed over me that she's the reason I need to get back up on my feet like a big girl and start spreading more kindness in this world, because I was shutting down and it was not my way. That is not who I am. I found my sparkle again. I decided to start really brainwashing my own mind, Rob, with my own hypnosis. I do my own mind activations. I've always hit the gym, but even when I was going to the gym, Rob, I was not feeling any endorphins. I was not feeling dopamine. I wasn't feeling anything. It was numbness. The one thing that I relied on, exercise, I was not even getting anything out of that anymore. But this manifests everything. Your mind manifests everything. So I just said, I'm going to change my mindset. I'm going to just pour as much good stuff, not even affirmations, just real good stuff into my mind and fall in love with myself. And I mean that in the best way, because nobody's coming to save you. You have got to find out what makes you happy. There's no one person, place, or thing, exogenous, outside yourself, that is ever going to truly fulfill you. Only you know what that is. And I just decided to live again, like really live.
I like that, and we'll delve into that. And I think, unfortunately, with the unknown that COVID was at the time, it really messed up a lot of things. And I don't know if we discussed this at the conference, but in 2018, I left law enforcement because of the trauma to build a strength and conditioning gym. And I ran that for 4 years. And that was my passion, what I thought was my purpose. I had plans to, open 3, 4, 5, 10 locations and build this community founded on, fitness and my coaching theories and principles on fitness, nutrition, and everything. And I lost everything due to COVID. And when COVID hit, the first thing that happened is the city of Coconut Creek shut me down for 3 months. No rhyme, no reason, was like, you can't open. And, I wanted to fight, but when there's police officers sitting in the parking lot to make sure no one opens their business.
God, it was horrific.
Yeah, you can't afford to fight back. And I had noticed that, the first thing that was to go, which I don't think it's the right thing, but was people's gym memberships, because when you have to now stay at home and take care of your kid, you can't pay that extra $125 a month for me to coach you, especially if I can't be open. And as much as I tried to find ways where I actually loaned out all my equipment to my gym members, I did online classes, I was on the news fighting for my gym and showing that I could be clean and responsible. At the end of the day, God, the universe, whatever, saw a different purpose. But originally that caused more depression, more trauma, more issues, which I'm happy for now because it kind of solidified who I was. But what was like the key moment, I guess, where you said, I don't like who I am. I don't like who am I becoming. This is a very dark, scary place. And what things did you immediately start to, build yourself back better? Because I know for me, even now, I mean, going to the gym is a non-negotiable for me. Activity is a non-negotiable for me.
Right.
But you're right. I don't always get the endorphins. I don't always have a good workout. I do it because of the discipline and the consistency, and I know I have to do it. So let's discuss a little bit about your journey there from the point of no return to who you are now.
Yeah, it was really, I just had to I had to give myself a tough talk. I was like, how dare you not enjoy life right now? What is stopping you? Why aren't you going after anything anymore? Just because, you're company that, you know, went through this and you loved what you did, it's gone. You got to move on. Find something but I couldn't find what I liked anymore, Rob. My kids were gone. I poured everything into them. Like, I was like, what do I like to do? I love to work out, but I'm not going to work out 12 hours a day. But I like the feeling of it, right? So then I would like incorporate, I ride my bike to the gym and then I'll take walks periodically throughout the day. I really feel you got to get that sunlight. It is a natural mood elevator. And then I of course, I had the most amazing therapist at the onset. It was a blessing in disguise. She was just awesome. And, you know, I'm still here. And, you know, I just decided in myself, I'm like, I used to be a fitness instructor, a spin instructor, you know. I used to drive my kids to the gym because my ex-husband wouldn't watch them, you know, and I put them in the daycare while I went and taught. It's just, you know, I just did what I wanted. Now I'm like, I can do anything. I don't have those responsibilities like perhaps you do in that sense. So I had to develop a passion, and I'm like, oh my God, I just love talking about mindset. I wanted the podcast. That's the best way to get the message out. So I'm in the process of writing a book. Okay. But it's not about me. It's about all of us. 3/11, the World Health Organization declared the pandemic COVID, which is my birthday, very symbolic. 3/11 is also in numerology, has symbolism behind it. We, as a global universal consciousness, we went through and still are going through a collective existential mental health crisis. We're all in a haze still. I woke up, Rob. I woke up. I just decided there's something bigger happening here. Think about it. 9/11, the numbers. What did that do for our world? That's going to be my next book. You know, what happened to everybody remembers where they were during 9/11, right? Definitely. Everybody. It changed us. It changed our neuroplasticity in our brains. It made us afraid of everything and everyone, right? That was the first wave. Now we got the COVID, you know, and there was a couple other ones, Y2K and that stuff, you know, way back when. But COVID, every single person in every continent was affected, and mentally. It's not even physically, mentally. And then everything manifests in the mind. And then everybody's more detached than ever. Very rarely do people go to those events like you and I do. It's very seldom. And I miss it. I miss in-person contact in that way, in that, you know, realm.
Yeah, definitely. And like for me and for my community, I don't know if you go back into some of my episodes where I do story time and talk about my journey, but like Melodie says, so September 11th, I was actually getting an exhaust system installed on my car. I had broken service from the Navy I think I was in for 3 years at the time. And, you know, I'm in the auto shop watching this happen, and I go home. And the craziest thing, and I swear to this day, I got the letter before September 11th. I had a letter that was mailed to me or in my mailbox, and it said two things. It said, you can either go back in the Navy or we're going to bring you back in the Navy. And at the time, I didn't like my job, which was the whole reason why I got out of the Navy in the first place. So when I went back into the Navy, I went and spoke to a recruiter because I was more knowledgeable because I had already spent time in the military. They said, hey, because of 9/11 and everything going on, we need a police force for the Navy. Would you like to be a cop? And that was kind of the journey that I went into, like one of the first police academies for the Navy, became a police officer, was like, you know, I'm going to fight the terrorists. I'm going to, you know, serve my country again. That pride, that patriotism that comes with everything that happened in September 11th. And then, you know, COVID happens, and like, you're right. Everybody is just kind of in this permanent haze nowadays between watching TV, social media. I attribute a lot of things sometimes to the movie The Matrix, right? We're all plugged into The Matrix right now, just kind of mucking about through life.
Yes.
And, you know, once you get unplugged and you change your mindset and you wake up, it's a very beautiful but very dangerous thing, because on one end of the spectrum, you know who you are and who you're going to be, and it helps you find your purpose. It helps you find your place in this world. But then people start thinking you're cuckoo bananas because they're like, well, how can you help me because you're not a mental health professional? I'm like, well,
Mm-hmm.
I can help you because I have
Lived
PTSD.
experience, baby.
Exactly.
Lived
PTSD,
experience.
major
That's what I
depressive
want.
disorder, anxiety. Like I
Hmm.
have all the trauma stacked on trauma, stacked on trauma, and I had to find a way out of the darkness. And now I have the ability to talk to people like you and share these stories
Hmm.
and also teach people my theories of a complete holistic healing. And the last guest I just had on the podcast before you, we were talking about that healing isn't a singular thing, right? I think a lot of times people, they get mucked up in the, oh, I have to just do health, or I just have to eat healthy, or I just have to change my mindset. You have to look at the totality of circumstances, and you have to have all of that included to be an optimal human.
Yeah. It's like taking your Ducati to the Mercedes Benz to get fixed or something, you know? We, we got to take care of the whole person. But, getting back to the very beautiful question you were asking, like what the defining moment, really, I just really decided to remember who I was. And
Mm.
I used to be able to choose my dreams. I know it sounds crazy, but I would write it down sometimes before I go to bed about things that I want to visualize in my dream, and I would be able to do it. Well, it is a form of self hypnosis. It's called neuro linguistic programming. There's certain intonations in the way that you speak, and when you touch somebody, that's why you see these performers out in Vegas, and they'll touch your head, and they'll talk to you, and then make you cluck like a chicken, right? This is all programming for your mind. So going to the matrix, which is programming your mind. So every night before I sleep, everything's shut down. I listen to a bunch of different mixes on YouTube, but started making my own mindset activations because my vision boards weren't working no more.
Mm.
None of them came to fruition because they were old visions of things that I've already done. Like I had a picture of a house. I was like, I've already been there and done that. You know what I mean? Like all these things and that don't make sense in my life right now. Like what we're doing and talking about, that makes sense in my life. So I decided to create these visualizers for myself to hypnotize myself, so to speak, run that programming right before I go to sleep, 2 minutes. And then when I wake up first thing, and it's working because let me tell you, I wanted to meet somebody that is a seasoned professional in the podcasting business that lived near me. And I visualized meeting that person and I'm doing a podcast with them 24 hours later. And we got our own show and our own swag already. So it just is what you think about, and action's everything, right, Rob? Action's everything. It's not going to just happen just thinking about it.
The first step to overall healing is you have to want to look. At the end of the day, I love working with people, and I'll work with anybody. Realistically, I prefer to work with my veteran and first responder community. But with that being said, if you don't want to change, if you don't do things with intent is very important. You can't heal. You can't get out of that dark area. And I used to be the guy that was so far in the black that I knew I didn't want to be in the black, but I didn't have any intent in anything that I did. And, the things you're describing, essentially the simplest term is manifestation. And I'm learning that through my theories, my studies, everything that I do, the simplest things, amazingly, which is the silliest thing to me in the world, is what works. Writing down exactly what you want in life. And then what I've learned is with anything you want, right? And literally anything, and this is what's crazy, you can reverse engineer that. It just, you have to have the purpose and intent, right? So if I say, I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 60, first of all, it has to be realistic, okay? I have to be able to say, okay, I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 60. Okay, I'm 49 now. That gives me some time. How am I going to get there? I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z over the course of this many years. You have to purpose and intent is huge. You can ask the universe, God, whoever, for anything you want, and you can get it if you have that intention. But it has to be good intent, too. It can't be ill will or evil.
You got it. You got it, Coach. You got it, Coach Rob. You're right on the money, man. And it would help us to help others unsuffer. That's my big word, unsuffer. It's not a word, I made it up, but really I want to help people unsuffer and show them that they are the ones that are keeping themselves in that stuck feeling because they don't know what their purpose is anymore. And they're afraid of failing. But you know what? They're not afraid of failing. They're afraid of how they're going to look to other people when they fail. It's all perception. I don't give a you know what anymore. I just don't. I just do and say the things that I want. I love the people that I want to love, and I love hard. You know, if you're a friend of mine, you know that I care about you. I don't hold back with anybody or anything, and I stand up for people that are marginalized. I won't put up with it. I won't put up with it. I don't have the tolerance. Our time on this earth is so short, and it's such a gift for even us to be exchanging these beautiful ideas. You know, it's time. You can't get it back.
Yeah, I really want to figure out, and you know, I don't know in our lifetime if it'll ever happen, but break that stigma. You know, once again, people will ask me all the time, like, well, you're not a doctor. And like I said, it's the life experiences, the things I've faced that allows me to, I can recognize trauma. I can recognize depression. I can recognize a sense of hopelessness because I've been there. Like you, there was multiple times in my life where I thought the day was going to be my last day, whether I, ate a bullet or took sleeping pills or I had, thank God, I used to get frustrated and break down in tears and cry and say I'm a coward because I can't kill myself. But I'm so happy that I never followed through with anything, because the purpose for me and you to be able to have these open conversations, and people have to stop being scared about being uncomfortable. People have to stop being scared about what someone's going to think you look like or feel like, because you're absolutely right, Melody. You might as well do exactly what you want to do, how you want to do it, when you want to do it. That's the ultimate freedom. And nobody else can take that away from you. A lot of people don't realize we're gatekeeping on ourselves. We're our own worst enemy.
Accountability partners. We're accountability partners in life. And, and also I've just decided, through the people that I've been meeting, I don't want to meet like-minded people. I want to people who stretch my mind, who make me see things through different perceptions. I mean, just the other day I was talking to somebody and I was like, I'm not really sure about him. He's got kind of not the best reputation, And he told me about the whole story about what's going on with him. And it just changed my whole perspective. I was like, shoot, I feel like a loser now, for even judging, because I don't like to be judged. And I don't like labels either. Rob, I don't know how you feel about it, but I think they disempower you. Nobody wants to be called an addict, an alcoholic, whatever, fill in the blank. There's a million of them. Nobody wants to be called that. You would never call somebody cancer. So, those labels got to go. They just got to go. You are not a word, a sentence. You are a beautiful gift of light and being, and we were meant to put on this earth to be happy. But life events happen, and we have to adapt, and we need each other. We need kindness in this world.
I'm starting to feel like the people that struggle or suffer or go through more than most, it's not to, whether you're religious or spiritual or whatever, I don't think it's to punish us. Especially a lot of us, like myself, we're good people. We try to help and heal. I think it's to help us build resilience. And, when you have to keep fighting a daily life, whether that's to make income to take care of your family or put food on the table or overcome some sort of adversity, whether that's mental health illness, physical illness, whatever. If you can turn that, and I always say this, like I turned my trauma didn't go away, as I said in the talk. It's still there. I still have some bad days, but I turned it into a superpower. And by taking that trauma and saying, this is not going to defeat me, this is not going to solidify the person that I am, I was able to use that to be able to talk to my public, my community, and the people that I hold dear, to show veterans, show police officers, like, you can change, you can be better, you can be happy, you can be healthy, and really getting into that emotional regulation and that emotional control. Because once again, when you're in the military, when you're a first responder, no one teaches us this. No one teaches us how to shut things off before we walk through that threshold. And then
Yeah.
time and time again, we're getting divorced. First responders, I think, are committing suicide at a higher rate than veterans right now.
Oh
And
my
it's
gosh.
just a very scary thing that's unnecessary in our life.
Right. And that's why I love the fact that we can kind of not normalize these conversations, but listen, it's okay to share dark things with somebody if they're able to receive it. Some people aren't ready to receive that, and that's okay. But you can be that light for somebody. And it just made me think of the organization that I want to link you with. One brother, one sister. They provide education, training, resources, first responders, veterans, and community heroes. And I went through their whole, they provide free certification and real CEUs for first responders. I went through the whole training. I got national motivational interventionist training, and they do that for the first responders. And I love working with people like that because they're really trying to help keep people alive. That whole nonprofit was born in Karen Hurley's the president. It was her brother, I believe, that passed away by suicide. He was a
Oh, wow.
veteran, I believe. So we're just all linking together and connecting and putting together those resources. And my goal and mission, and my mission in life, is to end loneliness. I never felt so alone in 2020, and I never want anybody to feel that way ever again.
I think that's a beautiful mission. And it's also a very scary thing, especially, I remember times for me as a married man. My first wife I was married to for 18 years. And because of, I'll take 60% of the blame of a 60-40 marriage because of my mental health issues, my trauma,
Yeah.
not knowing how to deal with things. I took that out emotionally on my wife and my kids. And it took me a long time to recognize that and heal from that. But when I got with my current wife that I've been with for 8 years now, and we've been married for a year, I didn't want to repeat that cycle. I didn't know how to fix myself at the time, but I didn't want to repeat that cycle. I didn't want to lose my relationship with her, because even when we're in a relationship, we can feel lonely. And I'm sure there was times with your former husband, with the stuff that he was going through, you felt lost or alone, or just like roommates more than an actual spouse in a committed relationship.
It was frightening. So I've been married twice. First husband, I have my two sons, and he was not a nice person. Let's say leave it at that. So I had to leave him, and also he wasn't accepting of my son's diagnosis, and still to this day is not. So that's where that's where that is. But my second husband, I felt like, was my best friend. He was a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army when I met him. He was active duty, Southcom, and traveling all over. He was very high level. And then he transitioned into civilian life, and he was scared to death. Honestly, Rob, it was. I get it, but I helped him. He got a job. He was doing great, and just something, I guess, in him, in his mind, during COVID, he just walked into work and quit. He just quit. And that was just part of just like my life story right there in 1 year's time. And I did not wish my parents to outlive me. So, I snapped out of it. I could tell anybody, like, you can tell me anything, like you can. It's going to stay right here. There's
When
nothing that you can't share with me that will go beyond my heart and mind if you want to share those things with me. I am not a clinician, but I am a human first.
and that's what I want, I guess, for society, or for us as we network and we try to build this community of like-minded individuals, or thought leaders, or whatever you want to call it, coaches. I don't want to take over, and I said this again in my talk, I don't want to take over the mental health industry. I don't think I'm better than the mental health industry. I've been in therapy, I've been in marriage counseling, I've been on medication, I've tried just about everything. Personal development is what worked and helped me, and I just want to be able to lend those tools to the mental health community as an extension to network and help them with them. And it's very hard right now, it's weird to think that, hey, we're in 2025 and people
Yeah.
still don't want to talk about suicide or mental health issues or
Right.
trauma because the negativity of it or the bad stuff of it. But until you face that head on in the darkness, you can't heal.
Yeah.
Was there any signs that looking back now, maybe you didn't realize at the time, but was there things that you look back now that your husband did in between quitting his job and everything that
Oh my God.
happened
Oh,
that
too many. Too many. I mean, too many red flags. And the saddest part of this whole problem was watching him disintegrate was his family members. One of them was a head of the VA and did not want this to be known.
public knowledge, right?
And I asked for them to come help, come get your little brother. They didn't help me, and they didn't help him. And I honestly don't know where he is. But his behavior was enough for me I'm good if I never see him again. It was scary to be around him in the end. Let's put it that way. That's all I'll say about that. So there was a ton of signs, hindsight, but it was happening really, you got to remember, it was like a switch. It was like the switch. He went to work. 3 hours later, he came back. It was 7:30 in the morning. I'm like, what are you doing home? And he was like, I quit.
Wow.
And he just walked away from a 6-figure job.
And I think even in my own experiences, like, because I used to think that I was bipolar on like a very low level spectrum because I had the deep, 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 dark lows, but I didn't have the manic highs of like running around naked or spending all my money and I think for a lot of people that have some sort of mental health struggle, you never know when it's going to hit you. It just kind of middle of nowhere, like with your husband, something happened in him, inside him, in his mind or in his heart and soul where he's like, I can't do this anymore. And, obviously that wasn't the right answer. You should have had an open discussion with you and, and that's what
we had. I tried to get him to actually leave his job or take leave of absence, and he was too proud to do these things.
Wow.
See, I knew something was wrong, and I thought it was our relationship, but it was him. You know what I mean? It was something going on inside of him. You never know what people are really thinking.
Right.
And he was very quiet about his past, really. And to me, he was nothing like you would think, like with military jarhead. He was a sweet surfer dude, I mean, that's the way I viewed him. He was like the teenage guy, like surfer dude, just sweet, easygoing. But he's been through some dark, dark, dark stuff. And when I met him, he was still active. So my kids fell in love with him. He'd come over. He's looking like a G.I. Joe. And he's the only person that I allowed my sons to ever meet. And I ended up marrying him. And I don't regret it. But it was sad. It was sad to see it go down the way that it did, because he was like the father, the father kind of guy. Helped to teach them how to change their brakes on their car. Stuff like that, that dads kind of do. And I couldn't be a dad. And it's not that their dad wasn't a dad, but he was a dad in a different way, right? He was there. And I think that my sons now, they're adults. They, have free will, whatever they decide. They both went to college. The other one's getting ready to get his PhD. And now it's up to them to form their own opinions and beliefs and what values. I hope that they know how much I love them, and I just want them to always be happy inside. And when things do get dark, I hope they know that they can always reach out to me, because I used to be the crisis person. Everybody in the family, the friends, they always come to me when they're having crisis. But when I'm in crisis, I don't ask for help. And we have got to do better about that.
Yeah, definitely. I always tell people, whatever you do in the service industry, whether you're a personal trainer, a coach, a mental health practitioner, coaches need coaches. We all need a support system. Support system is huge. So I'd like to get your perspective, the woman's perspective and the former wife perspective. If somebody's listening to this and they're in a relationship with somebody, and the common, like if my wife asks me, hey, babe, are you okay? And I just say, I'm fine. Knowing that most of the time that means that we're not fine.
Right.
What is some insight or tips or something you could tell my community that may help talk to that person on
Great.
a better level?
Great question. And I use this not just for my husband and my kids, my sons, because men are very different with their brains and the way that they think. I always found I was like, hey, let's go for a walk, or let's go for a jog, or let's go for a ride in the car where I'm facing forward and they're, maybe in the back seat or even on the side. Always it would be some activity, like, that would generally lead to conversations. I had the best conversations in my car that were very deep, some dark, some meaningful, with my sons and my husbands in car rides. Think about it. Those are, you're active, but you're not looking at each other. And it kind of like takes that vulnerable cape of vulnerability down a little bit, and you become more open to sharing. The problem, though, Rob, in the military, they're trained psychological warfare. They're trained, differently. They're wired differently and kind of brainwashed differently. And unfortunately, I just feel that at some point something's got to give for these poor guys and women, because it is so unfair that still to this day in 2025 that we are still saying, we're not talking about anybody in the military dying by suicide or having a mental health condition.
And I just
And affects everybody. It's not just the military, but it's really prevalent in the military.
definitely, and that's, I was just talking about this on with my last guest. So, in the military, when you go to boot camp, they literally teach you how to brush your teeth and how to wash yourself properly. They give you a class on hygiene, but they don't give you a class on how to have emotional intelligence, how to have emotional regulation, how to take care of yourself from a complete approach of physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. None of that's being taught to any branch in the military. And this is what I'm advocating for, because like you said, you're right. When I went into the military and I had my trauma and the things I dealt with, it was always like, okay, don't talk about it. Don't deal with it. Just keep your eye on the mission. Do what you have to do to stay alive. Do what you have to do to fulfill the needs of the Navy. There was never like, if you're not okay, it's okay. And so I packed that inside. And then, after that, like I tell people, most people, when you're a veteran, when you get out, you go do exactly what you did in the military, because that's just the easiest way to transition. Most people don't think about, we're so stuck in this programming.
Yeah.
So, like I said, stuck in the matrix from the military, that you don't say, oh, well, maybe I would be better suited to be a cook instead of a cop, or,
Yeah.
Maybe I should go back to school to become a psychiatrist or a personal trainer. So me being a cop in the Navy, here I go become a cop in society, and I didn't deal with the trauma before I became a cop. Now I'm seeing more trauma, and when you stack that trauma and trauma, you just implode, and that leaks out into how you deal with the people in the public, how you deal with your family, your kids, your wife, your relationships. And the problem is your spouse, your partner, your significant other, they don't understand what you're going through, because they either weren't in the military, or if they were, they didn't face trauma. They didn't, and they don't know how to talk about it, because you have no clue on how to regulate your emotions. So every little thing is an issue. A piece of trash is on the floor and you're yelling at your wife, why is this trash on the floor? And it's not that you're mad that there's trash on the floor. You don't know how to deal with all the pain, hurt, evil, dark crap inside that you dealt with, that you weren't able to discuss or let out. And this is kind of where I would say you come in, and this is in case where I come in. We've both dealt with some real world shit, like really
heavy stuff
that most people probably don't deal with.
And I shared some with you, which I can't speak of on air. So yeah.
Right. And so, once again, I'm not bashing the mental health industry and mental health professionals. It takes a lot of school, a lot of training, a lot of on the job training to learn how to help people with their problems. But that's why there's this stigma of, if you're a cop or a veteran or whatever, I can't talk to you because I'll lose my job. I can't talk to you because my wife won't understand. I can't talk to you because my family won't understand. Everybody will think I'm crazy. Everybody will think I'm damaged. And that's not true. Like, that's farther from the truth. You cannot heal until you go into that darkness and face it head on. That's the only way. You can't just keep pushing stuff away and pushing stuff down.
Yep, you got to go through it.
You have
You
to
got
go through
to. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a rock bottom for everybody. You
No.
know, they always talk about the rock bottom. I would like to think that was my rock bottom. But going back to your point, people don't know what they don't know. They'll never know what you went through, how that physically and emotionally scarred you, because they've got their own worlds going on inside themselves. It's not that they don't love or care about you. And also, we can't expect people to love us back the way that we love them. You know, we can't do that to each other. So that's why, you know, when I say I love hard, that's just me. Get over it. You know what I mean? If I cry easy, get over it. You know, I just want a hug. I speak up about things that I really want. When I'm hungry, I get snappy. You know, I'm like, give me a slice of pizza. But I just try to be that person. The thing about you, Rob, talk about mindset. This is all I'm doing right now. I talk about mindset because everybody who wants me to come on their podcast, they're like, oh, you're the mental health person, da, 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 da. And I love to talk about it. But it's not sexy and it's self-defeating. It's disempowering. It doesn't sound empowering. Mindset's empowering. You are a mindset guru, okay? That's what you are. You are a mindset guru. I'm not a clinician, never said I was. I have lived experience on this earth through my profession, through my military career, through everything that you've been through, and you know what works. And I know what works for me. So I'm going to share it for free right now. I'm doing that on YouTube. I send out all do mindset activations. A little plug for my channel, Melodie's Mindcast. I introduce a little neuroscience, how the brain works, how this little activation will help you, you know, just to give you an understanding, very basic. And then I do like a 2-minute mindset activation where I run you through a visualizer, projects that you're working on, body that you're working on, the business that you're building. And then I just kind of close it out with something positive. And it doesn't take long. So it worked for me. It's working for me. I have my ups and downs, but nothing like where I was before. And I don't need to take any medication. So I'm good now, right? So I'm here to help other people. And then I'm linking with people like, you got to check him out. Got to have him on your show. Rex Sykes, Life on Your Terms. I'm in the middle of the book. He was on our show. He's a neuro-linguistic programming specialist and entertainer like you. You guys will get along great. He's big in the entertainment industry. And then Rebooting Your Brain, without sugar, drugs, or alcohol. That's Karen Hurley, and she's the one that has a nonprofit with my co-host Scott Jones, the One Brother, One Sister for suicide prevention for first responders. I mean, I have a whole host of people like surrounding me, like angels, and I just know that you and me, as we're getting ready to wrap this up, which is so unfortunate because I love talking with you, and I could talk all day about mindset. And I think the further we distance ourselves from mental health, the more I think people are going to start listening to us.
And we can have you on another episode, another time, and talk about more stuff. I definitely would love to have that conversation. And I lost my train of thought.
No worries.
But speaking on mindset, and you're right, it's not the mental health stuff. I guess it isn't sexy. What's funny for me is I didn't have, like you said, I didn't necessarily hit rock bottom. I know there was times, like I said, I was really dark and I was contemplating suicide and I was screaming at God and yelling and cursing and like, why me, why me, why me? But the funny thing that happened to me, or I guess my aha moment or epiphany was,
yes,
I was scrolling on social media and somebody was talking about gratitude. And I'm laughing at the post. I'm like, how can this simple thing change my life? How can this work? This is some, hokey, hippie, voodoo, dumb stuff. So I was like, all right, whatever. And I don't know why I decided to do this, but I went to bed and I was like, okay, I'm going to think of 3 things I'm thankful for. And it started out always being the same: my wife, my house, my dog. And then as things progressed, it can always be the same 3 things, or it could be different 3 things. But I started doing this religiously every night. Even last night, I do this.
As much as possible.
I sit in silence for a little bit before I go to bed, and I just kind of think about my life. And I'm like, man, I've done some pretty amazing things, more than most people, as far as being an actor, owning a business, being a father of 3 kids, being a military veteran, being a police. Like I can literally say I've almost done it all. And, what's next for me upon hopefully being the veteran Tony Robbins and being a keynote speaker and helping people heal is everybody's an author nowadays, and I'm trying to get my book out there too. And I'm not going to give anybody the title because you're going to have to wait for that. But just practicing gratitude and then waking up even when I felt like crap and saying it's going to be a good day, even if I thought it was going to be a bad day, that speaks volumes. And you brought up a valid point about the neuroplasticity and everything. I had an actual neuroscientist on my show, so I became friends with a veteran who became a neuroscientist, and he's doing studies on behavioral health and the brain and everything. And I asked him, I said, so let me ask you a silly question. You're a neuroscientist, so if I say out in the universe that my life's going to be great and my life's going to be good, and I say this compounded over days, over months, over weeks, over years, or I say life's going to suck, life's going to be negative, everything's dark, everything's black, whatever I speak out to the universe, is that going to go into my subconscious? And he goes, definitely. So just having the science, a science-backed professional to say how we see ourselves, how we speak about ourselves, how we perceive ourselves actually comes true and becomes realistic.
You are what you listen to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What you listen to, what you consume, what you put in your body, it all adds up. Everything adds up. People laugh at me all the time because before I became Coach Rob, before I became in the Navy and went through my trauma and became this like hard man, so to speak, I wanted to be a youth pastor. And when I was younger before the military, I used to be so heavily in the church. And to this day, I will never watch anything with like exorcism, demon possession, or anything like that. Everybody's like, it's just a movie. And I'm like, do you understand that what you watch and what you consume can affect you directly, negatively and positively? Now, I do like some horror movies. I'm a big action junkie, a military man. I love the cops and veteran and all the different
The
shows.
Matrix was one of my favorites, by the way.
The Matrix, yeah.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite movies. Yeah.
But there's just some things I'm not going to consume. And I still am in this old way of thinking that even with my 13-year-old son, I've literally like screen when I have him. Now, obviously what happens when he's with his mom, I can't control. But when I have him, I screen what he's going to watch on TV. I screen what he's going to see out in public. I screen, I'm a big video game guy. I'm a big nerd. And it took me a long time to allow him and make sure his maturity level was there before I let him play like Call of Duty and stuff like that. And that's a whole other conversation. But even my wife, as a teacher who teaches fourth grade, comes home and tells me that these kids at a fourth grade age are playing games like Call of Duty and Mortal Kombat, and because the parents are just like, oh, okay, here, Timmy, here's the controller, leave me alone. And the things that it's doing to their brain and to their mind and to their emotional level, it's just not right. It's not proper. So you have to be conscious of what you consume from a parent perspective, from a personal perspective, from every perspective. So,
and also when you've gone through things like you have, it's our due diligence as human beings and humanity to be there for people to absorb whatever negativity, because it has to move through. You have to move through the pain. And I have a girlfriend who launched her business the same time I did, which was just 2 months ago. Nellie's Healing Arts. She's a widow, veteran, and she lost her brother in Iraq. And she's had so much physical, like cancer, everything, like so much done to her. She's only 40, dude. It's unbelievable. And so I'm working with her on projects because we're going to go down to Southcom and she's going to work with helping people heal through art, stuff like that, working with the families. We've got to see, and this is cool. This is opening the dialogue. So I'm going with her and I'm going to be down there. I'm going to be filming if they'll allow me, but I'm going to be interacting, with them as well. And listen, she's not a clinician. She's a social worker. We're human beings. She's doing something good. She's got a contract with them now. She's going to do multiple events, and I'm going to help her. And I can't wait.
Before I ask you the final question I ask all my guests, What's one thing that you could leave with my community, especially the female perspective, because I don't feel like I have a lot of female engagement due to my big rough exterior and the whole battle veteran. Everybody thinks like I'm just kill, go, 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 and that's not true.
Yeah.
What's something you could say to the female community that may be struggling with mental health issues or relationship issues? What's the one thing that you would like to leave with them?
So what I say, first of all, to always be kind to your mind and to others, right? And put your oxygen mask on first. My friend, author of that book, put your oxygen mask on first, because if you don't, you can't be there for other people. And do not expect your partner or other people to fulfill you and make you happy. It's never going to work. And if you truly want to have a good relationship, you got to start with a relationship with yourself. It sounds foo-foo, but it's true. Once I said, oh my gosh, I remember who I was, and I'm starting to discover that I like to write again. I used to write, Rob. I used to read a lot, and I started reading again, and I started writing again. And I use AI to help me write my book. But my book is writing itself because I have people that are contributing their own 311 moment, what happened to them. So hopefully you'll be in the book as well. I want people to see like this, what we're talking about. We are in a collective existential crisis, mental health crisis, whatever you want to call it. And we're still in a haze, but I woke up and you have too.
Definitely. And I love that because I've shared a couple of times. My wife used to say to me all the time, she's like, I love you, with all my heart, but I love me more. And that used to piss me off. Like I used to get angry at that. I'm like, what are you talking about? But then as I talk to you and other people, it really made sense. Like if you can't love yourself, you can't have the energy and the passion and the purpose to love anybody else. You have to love yourself more than anything in the world. And once you figure that out, that becomes a beautiful thing. And that's where the healing starts. So my final question for you, Melodie, is I always ask all my guests this. What is your definition of turning pain into progress?
Oh, I'm going through it right now. Seriously. So it's kind of piggybacking off what we were just talking about, right? We were talking about putting the oxygen mask on. I've just gone through about all the trauma I can with multiple family members, my father, my nephew, my co-host having a heart attack within an 8-hour span of time, landing in the hospital. It was a lot, right? This has been 3 weeks now. They're all healing. Thank God. But I was not paying attention to my own body. I was letting the doctor's appointments go, and I finally went for my annual, and I left with a stack of referrals to specialists now. So I'm on a major healthcare journey. So I started documenting myself in the gym on Facebook, and I'm just going to play it out. Everything's going to work out right because I've got a good mindset. If this had happened to me 5 years ago, I might be thinking other things, but not me. I don't stop. So that's how I'm turning my pain into progress. And, nobody's perfect. We're all perfectly imperfect. I don't care anymore. I just want to be. I want to be happy.
And I think that's the ultimate goal at the end of the day. I love having nice things, and I have these big goals to have some very nice things, but my peace with my mental health and myself is the ultimate fortune in itself. It's amazing how you can go about your day in society knowing that you're blessed with being awakening to the potential of who you are and not allowing the negativity of the world and the bad things affect you, because it's you against you. You have to fight for yourself and advocate for yourself. Melodie, where can they find you if they want to connect with you, as this is all going to be in the show notes?
My jam is LinkedIn. I love being on LinkedIn. Melodie Walter, connect with me there. And then on YouTube, I have Melodie's Network and Melodie's Mindcast. And I'm trying to branch out a little bit. I still haven't figured out maybe starting another channel too. I love YouTube. I've been on it for a long, long time, but not for myself. Not for myself. I was pushing other companies' work. I'm the social media behind all the stuff that you see for my company, Florida Healthcare System. So, and I'm managing multiple pages for other people on LinkedIn. So find me on LinkedIn, connect with me, shoot me a message. I love to connect with people and meet people. That's what lights me up. That's what keeps me happy. You asked me. The energy that you have from other people, other humans, connection is key.
And guys, when I tell you that Melodie's energy is unmatched, it truly is. Like, even sometimes we're building this relationship, and she texts me, and I'm like in my mind, I'm like, Jesus Christ, her energy is just out of control. Like, I can't match that energy at all. But if you need help, right, and you vibe with her personality, find her on LinkedIn, have an open conversation with her. She is a networking guru. She has resources upon resources upon resources. And I look forward to having you on another episode later down the road where we can talk about something else. And we're going to keep both advocating and fighting for that mindset. So thank you for being on the Battle Harder podcast.
This has been so much fun. And Rob, I can't wait for you to contribute to my book, 311. It's going to be a bestseller. You heard of the book, The Secret?
Yeah, but you don't have to ask me twice. When you said contribute, I mean, I'll do it right now.
It's going to be bigger than The Secret. I have put it out there. It's going to be bigger than The Secret.
And I want you guys to hear this. Final thoughts. Like, you have to put stuff out there and then believe it and then work on it. And those three things right there are going to get you exactly where you want to be. So, Melodie, once again, thank you for this amazing conversation. I can't wait to release this on my channel. Guys, I've been your host, Coach Rob of the Battle Harder Podcast, where I hope to motivate, educate, and inspire you to become the best version of yourself. And as I always like to say, remember one thing, always be fit for battle. Thank you.
You've just heard another battle-tested conversation. Now it's time to take action. If this episode lit a fire in you, subscribe on Spotify, Apple, iHeart, or YouTube, so you never miss a moment that could change your life. Want to go deeper? Connect with Coach Rob at Battle-Fitted Brand. Com for coaching, gear, and tools to help you turn your pain into progress. Remember, life will test you, but you're built to battle harder. Until next time, stay locked in, stay ready, and keep showing up.